Okay, we are now recording the session. Go ahead, Yelena.
All right, good evening, everybody. So this is our second Watson Analytics session, and this is an agenda for tonight. We're gonna discuss the custom visualizations, dashboard infographics, storybooks, and the analytical exchange site, the team folders, and then there is a bonus, but you have to stay through the end. And I'll show you more useful resources, and of course, question and answers, right? So before we start, some important reminders. We are not using the browser back and forth button, right? Then remember, when you delete something, it's gone forever. There is no recycle bin. We are going to use the menu, right? Okay, so now custom visualizations. As you may recall, over the last few weeks, we have been asking questions about the data and selecting visualization based on specific question. Today, we are going to build visualization from scratch, not based on specific questions. I'll show you how to do that. So let's go ahead and let me share my screen right now. And we'll get started with learning more visualizations. So here we are. Remember our 3Ds, right? Data, discover, display. I'm right now on my personal folder, and we will go over more about the shared later. So here it is. This is my data set, and the data set tracks the students who are at academic risk, right? So we are using the same data set that we used for the last demonstration. Look, when I click on this data tile, I have options to ask questions about my data. Before today, I would just ask my question and pick any of these. But today, I'm going to show you an alternative way to do this. I scroll down here, and here I have custom visualizations. See this, for instance, here is a comparison when I want to see something in comparison, right? For instance, I could compare the number of average absences per county, right? Just an example. I can look at parts of a whole, I can look at my relationships, trends, and I look at the tables. So we're going to start with a summary table. There are different types. There is a grid one. So I just click on the grid, and right now there will be nothing, and I'll show you why. Because at the bottom over here, what I see is this is called data, this is called the slots, right? What I need to do is I need to take the field from the data tray and drag into the location. If you see this asterisk, it means that the slot is required. You're not going to see visualization until you have something in here, like a field, right? So in this case, let's look at the county. Let's find it in here, county, and I'm going to put it in a row slot, right? I still don't see visualization. The reason is I have not filled all my required slots. So here is my class rank, right? And what I want to do is, in this case, I want to look at my student GPA, right? So I need to find my GPA in here. Well, I can look at student GPA, or I can look at overall GPA. Let's just look at the student GPA. So this is what I just did here. This is a class rank, and it's showing me the average student GPA per class rank. Here you see empty cells. It means that I don't have anybody in this county. I don't have any students in the fourth quartile, right? So that's why this is blank. Now what I could do is I could customize my visualization. When I click in here on the format, I can change my colors and I can add the border, right? For instance, background, right? I can select pink background, or I can even do this more and like this, because when you're designing it, you want to make sure that the numbers and everything, all the headings are readable, right? So that's something to keep in mind when you keep the colors, when you pick the colors and the border. Alright, so I did that. Alright, so another thing to keep in mind is that your user would have to scroll, right? For this specific example, it's okay, but whenever you're doing it as a regular presentation, that's something to make sure you're aware of. Alright, so let's go ahead and save it. First, I'm gonna name this tab, and I'm gonna say class rank by county, right? Or GPA. Okay? So I have to always put descriptive names, and you will see why later. But let's go ahead and save this workbook, and I'm going to say something like findings. Well, when I save it, I also need to remember that I cannot have more than one workbook with the same name, right? So let's call it findings about academic performance, right? Can we do that? Yes, we can do it, right? There we go. So now let's click on save, and this is very important. I'm going to save it in my personal area, right? And I have multiple reasons for that. So now this is my first visualization. Now we're gonna look at another one. Whenever you want to show part of the whole, one option to do it is to use Heatmap. So whenever I don't care, see here in this example that we just did, we care about the actual numbers. We wanted to see the average GPA. Now suppose that I don't care about my numbers. I want to see something like a relative, right? Comparison. So in this case, I can do the heat map, and notice that here you have more slots to fill. You can do the rows, and in this case, I want to put the class size. This is going to be my rows. Then I want to put the student count in here. But to do that, basically the student count, I need to make sure that I have the rows. There is a special variable called rows, and by default it's hidden. So I have to this is what I have to do. I have to click here, and then I have to find it. See this rows, and I have to make it visible. Alright? Oh, this one will open up the property, but I have to click on the check marks. So now it's going to be available, right? And I can select it from my data tray. It's going to be all the way in the back. So now I'm going to do, okay, right now I see something. I see some visualization because I filled out my required slots, right? But my visualization still does not make sense because it's just showing me for all data, right? But I'm gonna make it better. I'm going to put the class rank. So let me find it here. Oops, I have to go more here. So I'm gonna put, what I want to do is I want to have the columns, right? And I thought I just saw it. Yeah, so I'm going to put the class rank over here, so like this. See that? So this is a three-dimensional, right? So what I have right now is that the class size, and this is a quartile. The lighter color means that less people, right? Lighter color means less people. Darker color means more people. I can do it even more. I can throw in the gender. This is a multiplier. It means that I'm going to have a separate plot per gender, right? So this is what I have right now. And now what I could do is I could go here to the formatting, and this time I'm going to change the color of my plot. I'm going to change the color of my plot. So here it is. I can just pick this one, right? There we go. If you like purple, for instance. So now, if you take a look at this, I don't see much difference between male and female, right? Well, that's just one way to analyze this. And let me go ahead and we're gonna save it as class size, right? Class size, and then it's like size rank, and then go and let's say it by gender. Well, you want to save it the way it will make sense, because later you'll use it in your visualizations. So let's go ahead and save this for right now. Now we're gonna do something else, and I'll show you what we'll do. Let me click here. We're gonna do the network, right? The network visualization allows us to see the relationship, right? So I have to have something on one side, something on the other side, and I have to have the lines in between. So in this case, I want to have a class size. This is going to be from. So I want to see if there is a relationship between class size, and I want to put the class rank here, and my line width is going to be the change in the GPA, right? So here it is. I want to see how my change in the GPA differs based on a class rank and a class size. See this? So what I could do, I could hover here, and it's gonna give me the. See this? It's gonna give me the value at this point. So this one, the fourth quartile, right? And then if I trace the connection here, it's gonna show me that there is a line to the class size less than 100, and this is a. Oh, there is another problem with the GPA. For some reason, it just showed me the count. That's not what I want. I actually wanted to see. Well, actually, wait a minute. Here it's a GPA. It showed me if it's positive or negative, so no problem. If I wanted to actually see the average GPA, right? This is what I would need to do. I can do this, click here, and then I'm gonna do the student GPA. Let's see what's gonna do it. There we go. So now I'm looking at the GPA. The line thickness is proportional to the GPA value, right? But I want to make sure that I'm doing an average, right? So I'll have to find my GPA, and I would have to check the type of the aggregation that it's using, right? I would have to check to make sure that it's set to the average, right? So here it is. Let's see, there's a student GPA, that's what I called it, right? So I need to find it here, and then see this, when I click on this, I click here to open up the properties. I go to properties. Take a look at what it's doing right now, and this is average. That's fine, that's what I want, right? Something to keep in mind, if I can change it, if I change this property in a refine view, it will affect all of the discoveries that I'm building from the data. If I make a change in here in the data tray, it will affect the whole workbook. Sometimes you can make a change on the visualization itself, and it will affect only the specific visualization in question, right? Okay, so here you could also highlight, right? You can highlight certain points, you can select, and you can see the values, and so on. So let me go ahead, and I'm going to call it network, right? And I'm going to save it. So now I need more visualization, and the reason I need more is that I'm going to be doing the dashboards, right? Should be showing you how to do that. So now let's do something else. We can do this. So let's click here, and I'm gonna scroll down. Now I want to show you how to do part of the whole. So I click on the pie chart, for instance, right? Here, these two are the required. So what I want in this case is I want to see the class rank, and I want to see the number of students for my segment size. So I have to go all the way at the back and add my rows, right? So this is going to show me the proportion of students at each rank. So now I have an option to change to percentages. I'm gonna go here and I'm gonna go to show. Okay, I'm good here. Now I'm gonna do variation. I'm gonna change it to the donut. And now I'm gonna go to my numbers and I'm gonna put percentages. Okay, so let's leave it as is. And also you can click on each slice and it will, if you click on each slice, it will show you the number of rows that fall into that slice, right? So let's go ahead and let's save this as class ranks, right? Okay, so we did that. Now we're gonna save it. I'm gonna do another one. This time let's do word cloud, right? Just for the sake of it. So, but in this case, you might be wondering how we're going to do the word cloud if we don't have the actual words. Well, this is what we'll do. We're going to be a little bit creative, and we're gonna put our words are going to be the counties, right? And our size are gonna be the number of absences. So that's gonna be the total number of absences. So let me find that. So this is the letter size, right? The larger the text, the higher the count of absences is in this county. What else I could do is I could add the color code, right? I want to see the class rank in here. So basically, I'm going to have each county repeated several times. It's going to be once per each quartile, right? And I have a different color code per quartile, and the size still indicate the relative number of absences, right? So I can click here and see this, it's doing the sum. Well, I intentionally keep it like this. So basically, in general, you do the word cloud to show the frequency of the word, but in this case, we can use the word cloud to show perhaps the total number of absences. We can show the total number of people. The county with the most students is going to have the larger font, right? We can do that. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to save it as a word cloud, right? So how many is that? So let's save that. I have now 5 visualizations, right? So we can do, I think we can add more. Let's do the, I'm gonna click here, and this time I'm going to do the one with let me go down. I'm gonna show which one. I think I wanted to do this one. No, we're gonna do the relationships, right? So if you take a look at this, it may look a little bit more complicated first, but it's really not. So I want my points to be the class rank, right? I'm just selecting it at random, and I could make my axis to be the, perhaps I can make it the number of infirmary visits, right? I can do that, right? And then this is my y-axis, and then I'm gonna pick something for my x-axis. I'm just doing that, right? So that's gonna be the club membership. Well, for right now, it looks small. Well, maybe because it's doing the sum. That's why. It's not doing the average. It's doing the sum. So what I could do is this. I could fix it. I go to properties, and I'm gonna go here, aggregation, and I'm gonna change it to average, right? Average number of visits. There we go. And now what I could also do is I can change the color, and let's do this one this time. Different color code per high school. So this is just giving me a different plot per high school. But I chose in here class rank. Let me choose something different that has more values, right? Because this one does not have enough values. So what I can do is I can select perhaps the county or something like that. So let's see, county, right? Let's do that. Here it is, done. So you can do something like that. Each dot is a county and type of school within the county, right? So this is going to be my bubble plot. I'm going to rename it bubble, right? And now I'm going to save this, right? I save it. Now I'm gonna do my first display. We're gonna need to do several displays because we're going to get to the storybooks. So I'm gonna go to the display tab and I'm gonna click on new display, and I'm gonna do the dashboard first, and I'm gonna do the let's say academic performance, right? And I'm gonna hit create. But for the first page, I'm gonna do this one, 4. Now I have several options. I can add my existing discovery, or I can create the new discovery. The difference is that if I add the existing one, right? When I create my discovery on the discovery type, I make the discoveries reusable. I can use them inside multiple displays, but if I create a discovery here on the fly, I cannot reuse it in another display. So this is the difference. So right now, let's go back. Let's go to the personal, and I'm going to find what we just did, right? And one way to do that is look at the date. See this? Today is April 2nd, and this is what I did. So the good thing is that I used the descriptive name, because now I would know what I need to do, what I need to use. Watch. I'm gonna put my cursor on top of the blue line, right? Because it will help me align the visualization nicely. Here, I want to put my pie chart here. Well, usually, when you're doing it for a grade, you want to group the visualization based on a certain topic. Like, for instance, you would probably put the attendance on one page, you would put the cost on the other page, and so on. But right now, I'm just showing you how to do that. When you're doing it, you need to do a little bit of the planning, right? You have to really sit down and plan how you want this to show and in which order you want this to show, right? But for right now, this is what I'm just doing. So here I have 4 visualizations, right? And I'm just gonna name this tab as finding one, right? Well, usually you want to do the descriptive name, because whatever name you use here, this will become the tab in your storybook, and I'll show you when we get to it. So, but let's go ahead for right now and add another tab. So let's see which visualization we have not used. We have not used the word cloud. So I'm going to add another tab here. I'm going to put the word cloud, right? So that's 2. And I'm going to name it. I'm going to name it as a, let's call it word cloud. Right, so this is 2. I'm going to do this save. Oh, it's okay, here it is. I have to save it. And I know it's not saved because I had a little asterisk. Important, I need to save it in my personal folder. Okay, so I saved it right now. I have 2 tabs in here, right? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the infographic next. So I'm going to click on this logo. It will take me back to this here, to the landing page. What I did for you in the slides, I outlined, and I'll show you later, I outlined the main differences between the dashboards and infographics. Because let's go back here quickly, and we are in academic performance. Take a look here. I have two tabs. I can group my visualizations by tab. I can filter my visualizations. I can filter just one visualization just by clicking here and put the visualization in a focus mode and apply filter. I can apply filter to one tab, and I can apply filters to both tabs, right? This is what I can do on my dashboard. On the other hand, now we're going to do the infographic. Infographic is going to be a single page. I cannot I cannot apply filter to subset of visualizations. It has to be one, right? I can apply to one in a focus mode, or I can apply everything, but I cannot do the subset. I cannot divide my visualization into pages, right? So let's do this. Let's put academic infographic. So, but there are some similarities, and I'll show you that too. So now I'm gonna do create. Take a look. I can also pick the layout, right? And I'm gonna pick this one. But as a layout, the options are different. But okay, the similarities are that I can create new discovery on the fly, or I can just take my existing discoveries that I already created. I can apply filters, as I mentioned earlier, and I can change the format, right? So for right now, let's go to the personal, and I can add the discoveries that I created today, or I can also add the discoveries that I created in the last session, right? I can add something from last session. And here is, actually I wanted to show you the map. So let's see, we can do you remember last time we did the decision tree, right? To the decision tree, we used to predict the model for risk, right? So I can just go ahead and I can just drag and drop here, right? So basically, and also something else I need to tell you, you can use different data. It does not matter. The visualizations, the discoveries that you're dropping here may or may not be based on the same data set. You can use from multiple data sets, okay? Just keep that in mind. Or you also, oops, what happened? You also could, if you want, you can create a brand new visualization, right? Look, I can click on a new discovery, for instance, right? I click on new discovery, and now I'm presented with the data set. Now I'm going to select the data set, right? And this time, this is another one, another visualization. And this is called the packed bubble, right? So I click here. Now I'm in a. So now what I'm gonna do, I have to put this as a slot, and I want to do the class rank. So every bubble is gonna be my class rank, and for the size, I want to use rows. But do you remember earlier I added the rows, but they're not here? It's because I added rows to my discovery workbook, right? What I did, it's not in here, so I have to add this again. See, that's the thing. If you don't use the workbook, if you do it on the fly, you will have to make the change again, right? Because by default, rows are not displayed, right? But I use rows because I want my size to be proportional to the number of people. And also, I want to do the separate color code based on number of absences. So I'm going to have each bubble repeated several times, right? So this is the first quartile, second quartile, and it shows me different number of absences, right? And here, if I hover, I see the number of students to which it applies. So let's go ahead. Number of students to who it applies, right? Okay, so let's go ahead and save this. Save. Right, and I want to keep this in my personal folder, right? And there are some rules about saving, and I'm going to be reminding you them today, right? Okay, so here it is. I have 3 for right now. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to exit this, and I'm going to create my storybook. So now, do you remember the workflow? We've got the data, we have our models and visualizations, we have our infographics and dashboards, and now we're going to put everything together to tell a story. To do this, I'm going to click on New Display and select Expert Storybook. Something important, one reason we are using the academic edition of Watson Analytics is that other editions don't have Expert Storybook. So we are using the storybooks. And another reason is that we are going to share files with the team for your next assignment. Not the assignment 4, assignment 5. So let's go ahead and let me call this academic storybook, right? There we go. Now I'm gonna hit create. So here you have to plan a little bit, because see this? Each of these tiles is gonna be page, and when you play the storybook, the pages of the storybook will appear in the same order as the tiles that you place in here, right? Okay, but before we do that, this is the storybook title. Here I can put the descriptions, right? And then here I can change my background. So I have a background of the graduation caps, so I can do that. And for your assignment, you could change this too, right? Pick something related to your topic. Now what I'm gonna do is, I created something today, the academic performance. This is a display, so what I'll do, watch, I selected this, and I have to drag and drop, right? So what it did was, it added the page to my storybook. Now I can tap on this to add a thumbnail, and usually you want to pick something that closely represents the content, right? But I'm just gonna pick the first one, and I may have to scroll. There should be a button to actually select it, right? Okay, I double clicked it. It did. You can double click, right? Here it is. Now this is called the annotation. I click over here, and it took me. Notice, what is this? This is the dashboard that I created, and here it has 2 tabs, right? So remember, it's very important to name it correctly. And if you want to rename it, you have to go back to your display and rename it there. When you edit the display, right, when you edit the dashboard, the changes will automatically appear here in your storybook. Your storybook is dependent on the displays that you use to create it. So here, basically the purpose is I can add the explanation, right? So just for the purpose of the demo, I'm going to type my findings. But for the assignment that you're submitting, you can put something more descriptive to make sure that if your instructor or TA will log in, perhaps if it's a group assignment, right, your instructor or TA will be able to access your group folder, and he or she should be able to see the description of what you did, right? So I'm going to do add explanation, right? So this is a note that I just added. I called it explanation. You could also add notes on the visualizations, right? I click here, and then I just type my text, right? So this will add notes specific to visualization. But you should be very careful when you do that. For instance, if I have a plot, if I add something like this is my maximum, there is an option to reload data in the Storybook. So if I reload my data, that might no longer be my maximum. So we have to be careful with the comments that we put. So now let's go ahead and click OK. And I'm going to scroll down, and I'm going to add my so this is the infographic that I created today. I'm going to add that, and I'm going to click here, and I'm going to just pick something else. You double click, and it will do that. Okay, so I've got two right now. Let's save it. And now I'm going to pretend to be an end user. So I'm going to click on the glasses to go in a view mode, and this is what my end user will see. They will see that I have two findings. Top finding is display or infographic, so I have two of them, and one data asset. It means that I used a single data set. So these two visualizations, these two displays that I have, were built on the same data set. So when I click here, I can see my data. And see this button replace. In general, it is possible to replace the data that was used, right? You can reload the data. For instance, if your data was coming from the database, then you could do it. But we are not doing it in this class, but I'm just telling you in general. So here, see this, it's a data preview. And here, when I click, it's showing me the list of top findings, list of displays that were used to build the Storybook. Well, maybe it doesn't make sense, but if the data set, if this Storybook used more than one data set, then I could just select my data set from the list, and the drop down will be pre-populated with only the displays that were built using the selected data here. What I could also do is I can click here to see my data information, and the data information matches the data information that I have on the data tile, right? So it has to be this is the source, the file source. It may have been an Excel file, and that's a file name, and so on. And these are the displays, right? It's called affected, but those are the displays that take data from that data set, right? So now I'm going to minimize this, and I'm going to look at it, right? So I click here, academic performance. This is my first page, and I see the annotation, and I have an option to view these animations, not animations, annotations, sorry. I can view these annotations, and I can ultimately hide them, right? So here I can toggle view hide, right here. Now I can, so here are two tabs, right, that I was talking about. And then when I click on this arrow, it's going to take me to the next tab, right? There we go. So this is how I can, as a user, I can use my Storybook like this. And I can also interact with my finding just by clicking and drilling down and doing exactly what you have been doing so far. Now let's click on the home page. Well, suppose that I used this data and I became familiar with the findings that you presented to me. I can click on this home page, And suppose that I want to learn more. I have an option to ask additional questions about my storybook. Well, I swear I'm not gonna do that, but this is something that could keep us, it could keep us up all night. I can do here, and I can type my question, something like number of students per country, right? Number of students per county, right? I can type something here, and that should give me, okay, well, okay, I can just select this, right? And what will that do? It will add a brand new discovery. See this? It will add a discovery set, right? So then what I could do is, I'm creating a new discovery set, and later I can use this discovery set to create a brand new display, and then I can add this new display to the I can add this new display to my storybook, right? But let's not do this right now. Let's close this out. Okay, for some reason it's now okay. Alright, so now let's go back to, well, basically I showed you how we can use this storybook, right? We can ask our own questions that will build the new display, then new discoveries, and we can add the discovery to display, and we can keep on adding to our storybook. But I promised that I'm not gonna be doing, right? I'm not gonna be keeping you up all night. So now let's go over another topic here. There is a collection of the storybooks that is available for you to review. This is called the Analytics Exchange site. Now, very important, you're not going to turn it in for a grade, but what you will do is, sometimes it's very helpful to look at the examples. So that way you will know, you will get an idea of what you can do for your data. So let's just pick this one, Expert Storybook, and I'm going to do import. Well, make sure it's free. They're all free, but it's always a good idea to double check. And now I'm going to do import. So what it's supposed to do is it's supposed to import the storybook, and the storybook has several displays. In this case, I think they're going to be dashboards, and also it's going to be the data set that was used to build the displays. Sometimes there could be one data set, or there could be more data sets. So here we need to be patient, depending on the network speed and depending on number of system users. It might take a while for it to create, right, for it to add. So while it's loading, I'm going to show you what you have here. I summarized different visualizations types and what I did, because later, if you want to look at this and if you want to follow along, you're going to have it in writing and you're going to have it the recording. And here, this is what I did. I put a brief summary for you, right? The differences between infographic and dashboard, and here in the middle is what they have in common, right? So let me take a look what's going on. Okay, now it says import complete. I'm gonna close this. Okay, so here it is. See this? This was done by Expert, by IBM, and I use it similar. I would click on this, and this is my first stop finding. See this? And here are my annotations. So I can just go through this, and I can click on this, and I can read this, and so on. Okay? So this is what you're going to do as part of your homework. You will take a look at the available samples. So let's close this out, and let's take a look at what got imported. This is my personal folder. It created a subfolder, and subfolder is called imported. In the imported subfolder, it added this. See this? It added this one. This is a customer service storybook, and it also added the displays associated with this, right? So this is a storybook. Let me close it. It's supposed to add the storybook, and it's supposed to add the displays. Not sure what's going on. It's not refreshing. Maybe it's not refreshing. But it's supposed to add the storybooks and the displays associated with it. I hope I added it to my personal folder. It's not supposed to be adding it anywhere else. Okay, personal. And it's supposed to be adding this one and also the displays. Not sure what happened. But see this? It's supposed to be adding the data. Well, I'm wondering if there is anything that may have been changed. It's highly possible. If there is anything that may have been changed, cancel. I don't want to create new folder. But usually the data is here, then there are no discoveries, there are just the displays. But for some reason I don't see them. I'm not sure why. Okay. Well, I will have to look and if there are any changes because basically very often you may have noticed that there is a scheduled maintenance because they keep on adding new functionalities and so on, right? Okay, so let's look at something else. For your last assignment, you are going to be working in teams. So for the purpose of this demonstration, I created a dummy group. I'm going to assume that I'm enrolled in a spring session of data 610 and the session number is XX, and I was assigned to the group 1. This is a group 1, right? So what I'm going to do right now, I'll show you how to share the file with my team, but let me show you again how to access your group. So see, this is shared, very important. Nobody ever will be saving files in the root of shared folder. Anything saved in the root of the shared folder will be deleted for multiple reasons. First of all, we don't want everybody to see your work. We don't want anybody to modify your work by accident, right? There are multiple reasons, and another reason is there would have been a big mess, right? And your teammates are not supposed to be, they need to know where to look for your file, so you're going to have the designated folder for your team. So to access my folder, I'm going to expand shared. I'm going to find the session I'm enrolled, and I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to see my group. This is my group, right? And of course, within the group, I can create subfolders, right? So I already have a copy of the Risk Student 2. That's probably from the last demo, but that's alright. I'm going to share another file. Now, so let me go to Personal, and I'll show you how to share the file with your team and what to be careful about. Okay, so here it is. Now, I have this file. This is another copy of the Risk Student data. To share it with my team, watch, I'm going to click on this ellipsis to open the menu. There are several ways. I can move it, right? If I move it, it will put the copy into the shared folder, or I can save it as a copy, right? So let's see if I move it. I'm going to click on Move, and where I want to move, right? So you're going to see this. This is what you will see. You need to click on Shared, expand it, then you need to expand your folder, and then where inside the folder you want to put it, right? In this case, I want to put it here. And here are some storybooks. I put them for a reason, because I wanted to demonstrate what happened when your teammate did not upload all files. I'll do the demo on this. But first, let's do this. I'm sharing the file with the team, right? That's an imaginary team, so to speak, right? And I'm going to say Move. And we're going to assume that Steve is my team member, just an example. Okay, important. You want to keep this checkbox checked. Do not change this, because myself, at some point, I was not careful, and I ended up losing my admin role. I was not careful, okay? For you here, there is a high risk of taking away access to your own work from yourself. So I would recommend just keep it like this. Don't uncheck it, because if not done right, you might lose access to your own work. And then you would need to contact me, probably me, because it would have to be handled by the subscription admin, probably. Okay? So now we are here, and I set the folder where I want to move, and I want this to inherit the properties of my folder, which means that my team can see it. Okay? Students in other team should not see it, and the students not enrolled in your sessions should not see it as well. So now, when my groupmate logs in, they will see this. Very important, in order for me to move the file to the shared folder, the file must be closed. I must close the file. If I did not close the file, I would have received the error message, right? How do I know if the file is open? When I click on this error, here it shows me the files that are open. And suppose that I wanted to move this one, findings, I would have received an error. And the reason is I still have it open, right? So here it is. This is my personal. I go to Discover, and this one, right? Is it this one? Take a look at what's going to happen. I'm going to select Move, and I got an error message. And I got this error because my file is still open. So to fix this, I'm going to go here, I'm going to close this. And now I'm going to click here and do Move. See this? The error message is resolved. And I'm going to select my group and I'm going to click Move. And I'm not going to uncheck it. And I'm going to select OK. I wanted to point out something very important. Yes, Watson Analytics allows sharing files. Yes. However, only one person may work on the same file at the same time. So, if I open this one, right? Let me do this. I'm going to click on this, right? I'm going to be in the group 1, right? And I'm going to open this. I opened it, okay? And maybe I make some changes, maybe not, right? I have it open. I have a lock on this. Then I'm going to log out. It does not matter. Even if I log out, even if I turn off my computer, I still have this file open. My account has a lock on it. Then, when my teammate opens up the file and tries to edit it, there could be a problem, right? So when I got back in, I might not be looking at the latest copy and so on. This could lead to terrible problems, such as not being able to save the changes, etc. So, when you start working in groups, you need to make this rule. Whenever you're done for the day, before you log out, you're going to do this. You will go here and you will close everything that is shared with your team and that is still open. You want to do that because otherwise your teammates won't be able to save the work, right? They might be able to save it as a copy, but they may not be able to override the file. This is very important, and I checked with IBM to make sure that this is the case. Okay? So, okay, now something else. Here, this is a discovery, right? What I'm going to do right now, I'm going to go here, and I'm going to, if I'm unsharing, every time when I'm unsharing the file, the data file that I use to build the shared discovery, right? Anytime when I'm unsharing the data file, I'm going to get a warning. Watch, this is how you unshare. You go here and you select Move, and for the destination, you're going to choose Personal. This will unshare, but you're going to get this warning. So if you have a discovery that you use to build from this data that you're about to unshare, that discovery will become invalid, okay? So just click OK for right now. But this is something to keep in mind. So you could say, oh, wait a minute. No, that's not what I want to do. You know, something like that. Okay, another option. you want to, since sometimes you want to keep the backup copies. This is a sad story, but it happened. It was the weekend when the work was due. One student accidentally deleted the work done by the teammate. Well, this is a sad story, but we don't want this to happen, so we want to have backups. But unfortunately, one thing that cannot be backed up is a storybook. But I'll show you what I mean by backup. So see this? Here I have this file right here, right? Like, let's see, let's open. Oh, what am I doing? I want to open any file, right? Like, for instance, restaurant inspection score. I'm gonna click here, I'm gonna do this refine, and now I have an option to save a copy of this file to my shared area, right? I want to do save as, and I want to save it, this copy. I'm gonna click on the shared, and this is my team, right? Group 1. This is what I want to do. I'm saving it a copy. Now, here is something to keep in mind, that there is a dependency between the dataset and the discoveries. If you delete the dataset, the discovery will become invalid. Unfortunately, there is no way in the world to fix it. Even if you import the dataset with the same name, you still cannot fix it. So, if you delete the data that you used to build the discovery, you cannot fix the problem. That's it. The discovery will be damaged permanently. And there is nothing you can do. And because every single data set has an ID, it has a unique identifier number associated with it. So it's not the name, it's not the dataset name that actually associated with the discovery. It's a number. It's a hidden number behind the scene. Okay? So, but if you click here, select more, or select asset information, you're not gonna see that number. But this is the internal. Okay? This is internal number. Sometimes it shows an error message, but not today. Okay. I did not receive the error message yet. Okay? So you're going to keep in mind this dependency, right? Be very careful when you delete something. There is no way to undo. And deleting the data invalidates the storybook that was used to build the data. It invalidates all the discoveries and displays. Okay? So you're going to remember that. You're going to do a great job, right? You won't do that. Here I did some examples of the storybook. So this was shared with my team. This is the goldfish storybook, and I intentionally put no data, but I put all of these displays, right? I have 3 displays, and I have my storybook, but I don't have data. And I want to show you what's going to happen, right? Let me click on this. Now here, I see that I have 3 top findings, but hint, it's showing me that I don't have data, right? So this is a problem, there is no data. Okay, so this is the first problem. Now I'm going to play it. Let's see what's going to happen if I try to preview. It's loading something. It's loading, but see this? I have an exclamation point. The reason is it cannot load the visualization because I have no data. See this? Okay, now take a look. I clicked on this, and this is a number, right? It's an error number. It says we cannot access the data. And because, well, few things could have happened. The first thing is that my teammate never put a copy of the data into the shared folder. That's number 1. Reason number 2, my teammate may have unshared or deleted the data that was used to build this, right? So that's another reason. You want to then contact your teammate and ask, right? Another reason could be your teammate was not careful, did not listen to Elena, and messed up the permission. That's also possible. Well, if that's the case, then you're gonna contact me, right, account administrator, and I will take a look at that, and we'll see what we can do, right? However, nobody in this world can undo the deletion. Deletions are permanent, right? So there are certain things here that cannot be restored, and we're going to keep that in mind, right? See this? There is nothing there. Let me close this, and I have another example of a problem. See, this is, let's see what's going to happen in this one. This one, oh, this one has everything. But before we show the correct one, I like to show the wrong one. This is called the student survival. So I'm going to click on it right now. Take a look at what's going to happen. Well, it thinks that I have 2 tab findings, but 0 data assets. But now when I click here, see this? The display could not be found. Do you see this? The reason is I never shared my, whoever shared this book, storybook with me, did not move the displays into the shared folder. That's one reason. Another reason, my teammate could have messed up the permissions. So it's time to contact Elena. Another reason could be my teammate may have unshared or deleted the displays that were in this storybook, right? Because you cannot access your teammate's folder, right? You would have to contact administrator for this, right? Okay, so let me go ahead and close this one. And now I'm going to show you, this is the correct one. Last semester, we were able to pull data from the Twitter. We cannot do it right now, but I still wanted to show you this is a correct storybook because I have 3 tab findings and I have 1 data asset, right? That this was about the Oreo cookies. And I did that in another demonstration. And see this here, this is probably a good example of the hierarchy where you would use. See this visualization has a map. And what I could do here, I could click here, alright, I could right click and see this is a group up. So this is behind the scene, what I'm doing here, this is my hierarchy. So I can see the numbers by country, then I can click on the country and I can drill down by state, right? And so on, right? So this is the beauty of the map visualization. And that's something that you could use in your assignment too, right? So if your data has the field called country, state, and the city, you can use maps. And another nice thing is that it's several dimensions because you've got the color code for the state, you have a circle size, and you have the circle color. So those are the dimensions that you can use, right? Like in this case, I'm doing the friend counts, right? And the retweets, something like that, number of authors. Well, but this is just to show you what can be done. You're not doing social media data, but it's still good to see the different visualizations because in our example that we just did, we have counties, right? We can also do the map of counties within the state. So that's something to think about. Okay, so let me close this. This is correct one, right? Well, I like to show how to do it right and how to do it wrong as well. So now I'm going to show you how to do the joins. Since I promised, Elena likes to keep her promises. Okay, now take a look at this. I have 2 data sets. One of them is on sales, another one is on products. So when I click on my sale data, when I click here, and I'm going to click on refine, right? This is my sales data. Well, the problem is I have product number, but who knows what the product number is? I don't have the product name. I have a separate data set that tracks the product names. But suppose in my analysis, I want to have both, right? I want to see the product number and I want to see the product name. Well, the reason it's stored in a separate table because if I want to update the product name, perhaps I want to update it only once, right? But to update the product name, if it was stored here, I would have to go through every single order, right? So you've got two separate data sets, and we can merge them into the single data set. There is a limitation. You're limited to 2, right? Okay, so this is sales. Now what I'll do is I have to click on the plus sign. Now it's in my personal folder. I'm gonna need to click on this, and I need to find my product in here. Well, for some reason you have to do this for some reason. Okay, and I'm gonna click on OK. Take a look. Right now I have two sheets here. First one is, this is a product number, and then it's a description, product name, right, and quantity on hand. So basically what I would have to do is I would have to use my product number here to go back and look up the product in this table, right, to find out what the description is. It's very inconvenient, right? So what I'm gonna do right now is this tool here allows joining. I'm gonna click here, and now I have to specify the join condition. So what I want is that I want the product number in a sales table to match the product number in the product table. So I'm gonna click on this arrow and I'm gonna drag it here. There are several types of joins. Okay, so see this is a resulting set. By default, it will show me only the matching rows. In other words, it will show me only the products that have been ordered at least once. And if the order does not have the product information, that order will not show, right? So it will only show the matching rows. Ultimately, suppose that I wanted to see the orders that don't have a product. Well, to do that, there is an option to choose the type of join, and it used to be at the bottom, but it keeps on changing at all times. But at the very bottom, there was an option. You can change the type of join. Oops, not sure what's going on. Maybe you have to click, or maybe it's a zoom. I have to change the zoom. Let's see if I change the zoom, if I'll see it. Yes, I have to change the zoom to see it. See, this is matching rows, right? Here. So I can do all rows from the first table plus the matching rows. Or ultimately I can do the matching rows and everything from the product table. So if the product was not ordered anywhere, I still want to see it, right? If I do that, then I'm going to have blank. The order is going to be blank, right? I'm going to have the rows with a blank order, right? This is what's going to happen if I do that. Well, see this? Well, it's because this product has not been ordered. So this is the reason I have blank here. Something else to remember, there is no full join, okay? We cannot show, see for instance, here I'm showing matching rows from the product. Alternatively, I can show non-matching rows from the sale, but I cannot do both. I cannot show non-matching rows from A and non-matching rows from B. I cannot do this, okay? These are the three options that I have, okay? So in later courses, this will be called an inner join or equijoin, and the other ones are outer join or left join, right join, okay? So now, when you save this, you must save it under a different name. If you don't, it will give you the error. So I have to do save as, and I'm going to name it sales with product. Right? There we go. So now I'm going to put it in my personal folder, and I saved it, okay? So this is how you do it. Now, the problem here is that you cannot join more than one. However, there is a workaround. See that at the top? You can download this data. You download this, then you upload it again, and then you can join, because somewhere I have another data set. I have one on customer, because see this is a customer ID. It would be nice to see the customer name, right? This ID does not give us much. Maybe I want to see the customer address, perhaps the zip code or something like that, right? Not the detailed street address, but sometimes I want to know some locations where my customers are, right? Well, it's just good for the analysis. Alright, so let's close this. Okay, I wanted to show you more visualizations, but let's first make sure that we covered what we had to. So we went over the differences between infographics, right? And I showed you that you can, well, I went over the edit mode, right? So similar to the dashboard, infographic can be in a view mode and in edit mode. So edit mode is when you actually go in and make changes. And view mode is basically an interactive. It's you're looking at it from the point of the end user, right? Well, this one is just giving you more details on how to do the grid, right? And it's an explanation about the focus mode. Remember, the focus mode is that when you click on the top right corner, it opens up the visualization with a data tray, right? And you can customize it. By customize, I mean changing colors and so on, right? That one is a summary. I have not showed you it, right? But you can do the summary, such as averages and so on, right? So you have this is how to create the storybook. And this is one reason you're using the academic subscription. So here, this is the edit mode, right? The storybook can be in the edit mode and view mode, and you just drag and drop. But one reason is that you don't want to be saving in the root of shared folder, because then here in the storybook, it will be hard to find what your work is, right? So here, just showing you the steps to add the annotations. This is just showing the different sections of the storybook, and also the differences between, you can toggle between view mode and edit mode, and you can add the description. This is actually the storybook that I created on my admin account, just to play around with the data, okay? And that's showing me the data preview. After this session, you will have a copy of the slides, but what I'm trying to show is here that this information here has to match the information on the data tab. See, this is the name, the date, and so on, right? So that's how I might know that this is the right data. That's one way to tell. Then for the storybook, that's in a landing page. I'm just showing that you can rename, move, and delete, but you have to be very careful because the delete cannot be undone. Even system administrator cannot undo it. This is the Analytics Exchange page. You can access it through this link, or you can just select the Analytics Exchange from the menu, the way I just did it. This is Analytics Exchange, right? And look, you can look at the samples, okay? Because that is a sample, the storybook, right? So now let's go back to our slides. Here, what I did, I put together these are two storybooks that have the video about them. So you can watch this video and look at the storybook, just follow along at the same time, right? Other storybooks don't have a video, or at least I'm unaware if there is one. Okay. Here, this is very important about the permissions. In general, there are several permission levels. If the permission is set to none, it means that no, you cannot see the file, you cannot access it. For example, I'm accessing the system not as an admin here. I'm accessing as a user. So for me, the permission on other shared folders is set to none. Okay? The permission for the class session is going to be set to view because I don't want to be editing other teams. But for my team, it's set to view and edit. So basically, several levels of permission. The first level is none. Second level is view only. So for this is an example, your sample data set. This data set, if I'm looking at it as a student, I have a view only access. So I cannot delete them. I cannot do anything. The only thing I can do is just I can download the data. If I do refine, I can save a copy to my area. I cannot edit it here. And also, I can download it, right? Those are the three options that I have. But on the other hand, here, this is mine, right? This is in my folder. I have more permissions on when I'm looking at something that in my group, I'm going to have the view and edit, right? I have more options here, right? Okay, so this is about the permissions. But you need to be very careful because you may lose access to your own work. It's very sad, but this is a true story. Okay? Be very careful when it comes to permissions. So, but your folders will be set up by me. At the end of the week 9, when your TA or instructor puts you in a study groups, right? I'm going to create the study groups to match what the group assignment in Leo is. Okay? So if you're in a group 1 in Leo, you're going to have access to group 1 folder. And as soon as your TA or instructor notifies you that the folders are set up, I would like you to go in and check your access because we don't want any no access surprises at the end of the semester, right? We don't want to be upset at the, it's a weekend when assignment is due and you notice that you cannot access your team's work. We don't want this to happen, okay? So please, whenever these are created, whenever your TA notifies you, TA or instructor notifies you that the folders are ready, I need you to go and look, right? If you cannot access it, the folder for your team, right? Contact me. This is very easy to fix. For me, this is very easy. I have a tracking file for all teams starting from fall 2016. So I have been doing it long enough, and it's very easy to fix. Trust me. Okay? What cannot be fixed is the restoration of deleted file. This is gone forever. That's it. So we have to be extra careful when we delete something, right? So here I'm just summarizing how to access your folder, your team folder, right? So remember, in the left section is a directory structure, and in the right section are the files inside the directory, right? This is just basically the steps how to share with your team. And by the time when you get to assignment 5, you may want to go back to this recording and to these slides on how to share. Right? So here I'm just showing you how you know where the file is located, right? So, like for instance, this is an example here, right? I know that these two are located in a group 1, right? This is a group 1 in the shared area. See this? This is where I am. It does not show the full path, but And also your team can be organized. You can create the folders inside your team folder, right? You just select your team and then you click on a new folder, right? And let's say I'm gonna put it as a test. I'm just testing it. And I'm gonna do create. See, doing that, this will add the folder. And by default, this folder should inherit the permissions of your group. So only your group should be able to see it, right? And I set it up in a way that you should not be able to create folders outside your group. You only should be able to create subfolders either in your shared area or inside your group folder. Otherwise, everything that does not match, anything that does not match my tracking file, configuration tracking file, will be removed. So this is very important, right? We are not adding any files, we are not adding anything to the root of the shared folder, right? Because this meant to be managed by the admin only, but unfortunately I do not see a way to stop, people from accidentally saving files. So basically, one way is to make that rule, right? Because we want to make sure that it's easy for us to find each other work, the teammates work. We want to be organized, right? And there are multiple reasons we have to keep the rules. And this is to help you. So it's not just because Yelena wants to. It's for multiple reasons. Oh, another thing is here you have a lot of data sets. And a lot of them are from Kaggle, and they're very good for the last assignment. Like, for example, teacher salaries is one. Then restaurant inspection is a good one too. So air quality score, the one on loans, the one on video game sales. So there are a bunch of right now there are 37 data sets. It used to be 36, now it's 37 in here. So take a look into that. You might like something, because I don't want you to be spending days on selecting data. And one challenge on the group assignment is that everyone in a group has different interests, right? So it might be better to choose something common knowledge, right? Such as maybe restaurant inspection or something like roller coaster, the salaries, anything that is easier to understand for everyone, right? Something that's not too area specific, right? So let's take a look at that. So here, this is how to unshare the file, and right? So remember the warning you may get. This is a warning. It's because you may have some other files, right? You may have a discovery or something that was where you use the data, right? So whenever you unshare the data, the discovery becomes invalid because your teammate cannot access your personal area, right? Okay, so here it is. This is the rule. This is an example of the file that is due for deletion. This is the root of the shared folder, and see where somebody saved the file. So red X, it tells you that when Yelena logs in, she will see it, and she has a folder in her admin account. Yelena has a folder called trash, and it will go to that folder. Okay, and you will have to call me. All right. So here, this is an error message that you will get. Sometimes if you are trying to open the discovery and the data is no longer available, this is the error message. Okay, and take a look at this, data asset ID. This is what I was talking about before. Every data tile has an ID number associated with it. See this? So basically, the display and discovery is associated with this number, not the dataset name, but number. Well, yet you cannot have more than one file with the same name, but the association is done by this number. See this? This is a number. It cannot find that number, so that's it, goodbye. You have to say goodbye to the visualization. And I even tried to reload data. It still did not do it. That's it. It's just how it is. Now here, what I did was, I put this little picture of the dependencies. So your discovery depends on the data. Now here, this is a different dependency. You have data, this is your dashboard, and then the storybook. So your dashboard display depends on the data, and then the storybook depends on the dashboards and infographics. You remember the illustration I did use a demo? I showed you what happens when you have a storybook, but you don't have the displays. And I showed you what happens when you have the storybooks, you have the displays, but you don't have the data, right? So you must share everything with your team. If your teammate, well, it's highly possible that you are able to see the display, but your teammate cannot. It's because you have access to data in your folder. Your teammate does not. So the data that you use to build this dashboard has to be shared as well, right? So, and here, this is an example of what will happen, right? In this case, this is a different copy of the Oreo storybook. This shows what will happen if there is no discovery, when there is nothing, right? And this is another example. Sometimes, if you're lucky, it could still show you the visualization, but it will say that there is no data, right? Then here I showed you how I did the join. See this? I had two tables, and it's using different color code for each table. And see, I'm matching the customer ID in the order table with the customer ID in the customer table. This is a customer example, right? And today we did the product, but this data it's one of the samples, not for Watson Analytics, but for a different program. It's sample from IBM. That's where I got it. Anyway, here I'm just showing you that you have to link on the linking columns, right? So that's what I just did. And this is what's going to happen. This is the join data. So it's going to have some slightly different properties. But you can still do the refinement. You can still do the visualizations on it. Okay? And here, these are some storybook resources. Some of them are in the classroom already, but some of them could be new because, well, the classroom was prepared earlier, right? But Watson Analytics, the resources keep on updating, so you can see something new. You know, that's fair game. Yes, something else. There is something that I did not show you last time, but I found that out a bit later. So let me go to my personal, and I wanted to make sure that I actually show you this. So here is my risk student. Let me go to refine. I quickly have to show you this, because you might be wondering what's going on, and I had the same question before. So remember this, it's showing you the data quality score. For some reason it just, okay, let's hope it will cooperate. But for the county, it was showing unique. If you remember the last presentation, when it showed the data quality score, here it is. It shows the unique values. I figured out why. It's because when you have the categorical field, this is categorical, and it has more than 50 values. If the categorical field has more than 50 values, Watson Analytics will treat it as unique. Okay? This is the reason the county shows unique in here. It's because we have more than 50 counties. This is not an ID. It's not an ID. So this is very important not to be confused. This is not an ID. We have counties with more than one person, but it shows as unique because it has more than 50 values. And I found it by reading the discussion board, the blog post. Okay? So something for you to know, okay? And this one, of course, low quality because all data was collected for the New York State. It's a New York sample. So if I was writing a paper, in my conclusion, I would have written a little paragraph on a future study. And for the future study, I would probably want to analyze the sample from another state, right? So anyhow, I talked for a long time, and now I want to see if people have some questions. Audience has some questions. And Elena loves questions, so let's look at the chat to see if nobody has questions, huh? Well, when people don't have questions, then Elena starts asking questions, right? So, do you guys remember the steps to create the storybook, right? You remember what the storybook is, right? You remember the workflow, data, discovery, display, and then we tell a story, right? You remember that? What else did we cover and what we did not cover? Anybody wants to see an example of certain visualization and so on? Anything. Now it's a good time to ask me. This is an excellent opportunity and I love questions. No questions? Okay, well, that's fine. Maybe it's a lot of material. I understand. This is a lot of material, but what I think really would help you is that you will have a recording. So maybe in a few days from now, if you watch it again, you see what I'm saying? Then it will kind of like help you a little bit absorb because this is a lot of information. And another thing is that it would help to just sit down and practice. That's how I learned it. I tried all the buttons, all the options, anything possible that you could click on. That's me. Alright? So let's see. Steve, is there anything that you would like to add to what I already explained?
No, as always, hello, is it working? Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
Okay, as always, very thorough and very comprehensive. And I think you're right that if they give it a little day off or two and then go look at it again, they'll get a lot more out of it in terms of how to build the storybook, etc. Because that's really a powerful feature to be able to display, tell the story. You're going to hear that repeated throughout every course you take in the program. The data scientist of the day is not doing calculations per se. He or she is developing the right questions to ask. He or she is understanding the techniques and able to explain them. He or she is able to then present results that are meaningful, insightful, and then make recommendations how to improve the organizational processes. So that's where this focus on telling the story will be re-emphasized over and over and over. And you got no better way to see how that should work than to look at the storyboard examples and how to develop that, because that's really key. So I think we've got a real good start here. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.